September 17th, 1861. God bless you, and all who go with you. Abraham Lincoln to General George B. McClellan after the Battle of Fredericksburg. Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Grand Tactician, the Civil War, an upcoming Civil War grand strategy and tactical war game. This is a game that's currently in early access on Steam and comes out on September 24th, so just a couple of weeks from now. We're returning to our Union Let's Play series where we have just won a serious victory against the Confederates, our first major victory against them. We inflicted more than 7,400 casualties on the Confederates, almost 1,000 killed, while we lost shy of 3,000 men, so better than 2-to-1 kill to death ratio, or at least casualty ratios. We actually lost a similar amount of permanently lost troops, however. We lost about 890 permanent troops, whereas they lost 958 killed. I don't know how many wounded how many missing they had, so I guess they could have lost more permanent troops. But in any event, George B. McClellan's force won a battle at Fredericksburg. His troops are down to about 13,000 effectives at the moment, with about 4,100 disabled. He does have another 3,000, I think it is, troops that are currently being recruited, mostly cavalry, to replace a lost brigade there. But we won a primarily defensive battle against Hampton's division, which came up from Richmond. Hampton's force had almost 20,000 men. It was a pretty nearly matched battle in terms of manpower, but we really whipped them good. And so we've at least temporarily held Fredericksburg. But the situation isn't quite so clear. The Confederate Army of the Potomac seems to be trying to flank us and get in behind us using some railways. They may even make a move on Richmond, or not Richmond, good lord, on D.C., Washington, D.C. So I am probably going to move an army here, the Army of the Valley, about 7,000 troops to the east to try and shield D.C. But the way the rail movements work is it allows the enemy to move pretty rapidly, so we'll see where these guys go. Meanwhile, we also have a very large battle potentially shaping up near Grafton, Virginia. It seems there's about 3 Confederate armies and 40,000 troops near Grafton, West Virginia. I'm trying to take West Virginia away from the Confederates to hurt their morale. We've already sort of secured the Ohio River. We have made a few sort of minor penetrations into West Virginia, taking the city of Wheeling, but we don't really have the manpower, I don't think, to push back 40,000 enemy troops. We do have about 20,000 troops under Major General Don Carlos Buell, and then we've got about another 10,000 troops coming south under Major General Robert Patterson. So that would get us close to about 30,000 men, but again, it remains to be seen what the Confederates really have here. We've seen 3 armies, but they could be moving all over. They could be shifting troops around. We, in theory, could bring General Grant's army, the Army of the Cumberland, up, which would give us about another 8,000 men. But I'm actually going to have them move west toward Charleston, Virginia. My goal is to take West Virginia away from the Confederacy. There are some pretty important industrial factors. There's some salt works, I think, or where is it? I know there's some, salt works down here, which I believe is important in the creation of gunpowder. I think it's like saltpeter, but I could be wrong, in West Virginia. And so my goal is to take the western portion of the state away from the Confederacy. It could also trigger the creation of a new Union state and make things a little bit better for us while also hurting the Confederate morale. So the general strategy is for Grant to move in sort of the southwestern portion of the state into Charleston, Virginia. We're going to have the other major armies move toward Grafton and the major Confederate concentrations there. And once that falls, then we will move troops toward Beverly and toward Lewisburg. And then probably stop there along sort of the Appalachian Mountains western edge and see what the situation is there. We could penetrate in towards Staunton along the southern edge of the Shenandoah Valley to help bottle the Confederates up there, then move the Valley Army back into the northern edge of the valley and really bottle up sort of the left flank of Virginia. But we'll see if we get there. There's still a ways to go before that. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, there's no real sign of Confederate troops moving in and around Kentucky, so I've actually shifted some troops away from Major General Edwin Sumner's command, who has about 5,000 troops right now in northern Kentucky. They shifted over to join Buell's army when it looked like the enemy was concentrating over there, but we do need to move south and sort of secure the southern edge of the state. We have most of Kentucky under our control, but there are some individual places that did fall to the Confederates when they invaded a couple of weeks back. Meanwhile, the River Squadron on the Mississippi River is finally ready for action. We have 4 gunboats now. They're timber-clad gunboats, I believe. The Tuskahoma, the Lexington, the USS THG, and the USS Cairo, all ready for action. They're all completely constructed after a lengthy period of construction. I have also, since the last video, gone ahead and started building more warships. We are building 4 tin-clad gunboats, so they'll have at least moderate armor protection rather than just being wooden vessels. The USS General Scott, the Champion, the Black Hawk, and the Alfred Robb. They are all currently under construction. My goal is to build a fleet that the Confederates can't hope to match, and so we can secure the Mississippi River from any Confederate marauders who might try to disrupt our commerce by moving north. One other thing that has sort of cropped up and come to our attention, the Confederates have invaded southern Missouri once again after being thrown back. Looks like about 5,600 troops under the Missouri State Guard are moving north. We currently only have 2 brigades in the state of Missouri in our control. One of them under Nathaniel Lyon has about 1,300 troops, and then another 1,500 troops at St. Louis in the north. So I have decided to raise a proper army in the state of Missouri. We don't need a huge number of troops there, but we are raising a 2nd Infantry Brigade under Silas Casey, about 2,200 men. We also are going to raise a cavalry brigade of about 1,200 men under Samuel Zook, and then we'll raise 1 artillery battery of 12-pound Napoleons, which we were able to build 1 battery of better than 6-pounders, because we passed an Industrialization Act, which allows the creation of slightly more advanced weaponry. And so we are going to raise 1 battery of artillery under Joseph Abbott. And so as a result, once that force is completely recruited, we'll have about just shy of 6,000 soldiers in the Department of the West. That should allow us to fight the Missouri State Guard on more even footing. I can't move the Department of the West anywhere at the moment. Their readiness isn't good enough. We can move them actually to Rollo, where there's a depot there, but at the moment the readiness isn't great, so we're going to try and sort of concentrate on that depot, give us a little bit more in the way of supplies, get us ready to sort of start moving. In addition to that and the construction of 4 tin-clad gunboats, I have also made a decision to go ahead and recruit a new fleet. So if we actually go to the fleets, we can go to the ships in harbor, and we are not create a new fleet, but create some new warships. So we have started the construction of the USS Monitor, an ironclad Monitor, which is pretty damn expensive in terms of just money and also iron and steel and things like that. And we're also creating a second-rate steamer, which I believe is like a steam sloop, a 9-gun large steam sloop. Currently, both of these are being constructed on the East Coast to strengthen our Navy. I would like to eventually invade the Confederacy amphibiously and really get Scott's Great Snake moving. To that effect, I haven't seen a reliable way to get troops to transport over the ocean yet, but I'm hoping that I will be able to do that soon. And so I have started the recruitment of a coastal army under Major General Orris Ferry. It's being recruited in New York, or will be based in New York. All the units are New York units, but these guys are in Vermont, aren't they? Or New Hampshire? In any event, we're recruiting a small force there. Oh my goodness, that's not what. We're recruiting 3 brigades of infantry there, which will be about 2,200 men each, so about 6,600 troops, and 1 battery of 6-pound field guns. Those will be used for eventually landing along the Confederate coast and beginning the blockade of the Confederacy, which technically we have not proclaimed yet. If we go to policies here, we have not proclaimed the blockade yet. We can zoom up here and we can see... Where is it? Legal blockade. That is not yet researched, that policy. That will piss off the Europeans. But the policy that I'm currently working on is Militia Act number 2 to try and get my volunteers up to 2-year contracts. That's really important. Right now we have a lot of troops in service, but I've been a little bit hesitant to go all out and raising tons and tons of troops because our troops only can stay in service for a year. That being said, with the size of the Confederate forces arrayed against us, I have made some decisions in this last sort of between the 2 episodes to raise more troops, despite the fact that they won't be around forever. But with that being said, we are about 20 days away from Militia Act number 3, which will give us 2-year troops. At that point, I think I'm going to go back to industrialization level 2, which is really important in making sure that we can have adequate weapons and really sort of a strong force at our disposal in terms of a well-equipped force. Industrialization is a very important policy in this game, and I'm coming to appreciate that more and more as I try and raise more troops. So that's what we're working on. Our finances are going to be a complete mess. I don't think this negative 152 million is currently accurate. But it, or maybe it is if you include all of our debt. Our credit rating is not good at BB minus, but the industrialization policy should help get the economy spurring and going and things like that. Meanwhile, I think this episode's really going to depend to see how the Army of the Valley does, how the Confederate Army of the Potomac does, and like where troops move around. We have also invested in trying to expand the size of some of our depots. So the level 2 depot at Fredericksburg is being expanded to a level 3 depot. We really need to get supplies moving south. The ammunition situation in the Army of the Potomac is not good after that last battle. And the ammunition in all of these depots here is really bad. You can see like there's 0.3 pieces of artillery, only 2.5 pieces of artillery ammunition for like a level 2 or a level 3 depot. That's bad. If we go to Wheeling, we can, well, that's a bad example because apparently we fought a battle near Wheeling recently. Good Lord, where can I go that there will be a depot with better equipment here? If we go to St. Louis, a level 2 depot near St. Louis has 1,000 small artillery or small arms ammunition, 400 artillery ammunition. And so like you can obviously see those East Coast depots, despite being huge, are laying largely empty, which is interesting because if we go to the production section of the economy and we go ahead and we take a look at that, we'll actually see, not production, sorry, if we go to goods and trade, we'll actually see that artillery ammunition, the demand is only 375, which seems small. I think the demand is higher than that if you include all the empty depots. But you can see it claims there's 4,400 artillery ammunition in market. 800 of it is in depot, but we obviously need a lot more. If you look at small arms ammunition, it claims there's 48,000 in market with 2,000 in depots. But like obviously those depots are pretty empty at the moment. So we really need to try and get those depots filled back up, which I think is just going to require some time. Maybe, you know, as we enter the winter months, campaigning hopefully will slow down a little bit on the Confederate end. They'll get a little bit less aggressive, stop crossing into Union territory quite as aggressively, and maybe that'll give us a chance to get these depots filled back up. But that's enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and like actually get playing here. So we're going to go ahead and go to ×20 speed. We'll see what that, the Army of the Potomac, no, they're still moving by rail. But they're not moving toward, okay, well, then let's move the Valley Army down here via rail into the actual valley. You can see Hampton's division is pulling back further. I think they took some casualties there as they withdrew. The Army of the Potomac again is sort of threatening our rail line here to the rear of the Army of the Potomac. The Army of the Potomac is threatening the supplies to the Army of the Potomac. It does look like McClellan was able to very quickly get his troops back to full ammunition and artillery and rifle ammunition. They were like 65% literally just like 3 days ago. So good on him. He is an excellent administrator, so that does help. And you can see the depots are starting to replenish some of their stocks a little bit. Not rapidly, but somewhat. In just 3 days, they've already started to really rapidly stock up now. So that's good to see. The question is, do we fight the Confederate Army of the Potomac with our own Army of the Potomac, or are they going to, I mean, they're along our rail line here. They've actually taken Culpeper here and behind our rear, so that could threaten our own, well, it does say Union, but it is red like it's Confederate now. So I'm not sure, because McClellan is not really ready to fight. If you look at his unit's readiness here, they're deficient, which means they're really not ready for a battle. We may have to like set up additional like divisions or corps in our rear to sort of guard our supply line if we're going to stay forward here at Fredericksburg. Meanwhile, the Department of the Pennsylvania and the Army of the Ohio should be getting moving here. I did order them to move to Grafton. Oh, Buell's Army's readiness is too low. Okay. So we'll move back to ×20. We should get the Department of Pennsylvania under Patterson moving to Wheeling, and then we can have him consolidate with Buell. Meanwhile, Grant appears to be ready to move, and so his troops have crossed into Western Virginia near Point Pleasant. They've taken that town for the Union, and he's moving on Charleston, Virginia. I wonder if he'll pull any of those northern armies up near Grafton, or those Confederate armies up near Grafton south as he moves on Charleston. Leave it to Grant to be aggressive, huh? I don't know that Buell's ever going to get his army ready. There's a lot of troops there with not sufficient depots around there. So that's one of the other problems of building like a big army with Buell here, is that he just probably doesn't have the logistical support to do that. So let's go ahead and build a depot. Can I not? Can I? Okay. Build a depot there. Patterson at least has access to some depots, and we are expanding the depots up near Steubenville and other places like that to support the troops near Wheeling. We also, I believe, are expanding the Point Pleasant depot. Yeah, but it's going to take a little while. About 40 days. Meanwhile, if we move west, what's going on in Missouri? Missouri State Guard, still no intel there. Department of the West did move to the depot over in that direction, though. Meanwhile, the Army of the Potomac did move south now. See, it's... Oh, it's still red. Okay. Are there any overlays here to show me, like, show railroad tracks, campaign fleets, armies? Is there... I don't see any overlays to show me, like, the supply situation for my armies, like where they're drawing supplies from. I know some of you guys asked about that in the past, but I don't see an overlay there to indicate where that's all coming from. Oh, wait. Telegraph lines, so you can see that. Show supply lines. Oh, there we go. So that shows the supply line. Green, I'm assuming strong green, yellow from that depot. So what's the Army of the Potomac supply line? Why don't I have... Do I not have a supply line there? Oh, it's just into Fredericksburg directly. Well, there's a depot there, so that makes some sense. But, like, where does the... Is there overland supply? Or I'm not really sure where that's coming from. In any event, okay. What about for Buell? So he's drawing supply from across the river at Parksburg, West Virginia. Which technically there is no West Virginia at the moment, but so he's pulling supplies from there. It says they're starving though, or low food, so provisions are 64%. I mean, that's not too low. Okay. Let's see if they're going up or down. They're holding steady as best I can tell. All right, so Patterson's at his destination. King Cotton Policy 2 selected. Plantations are receiving more government support. Cotton to replace iron in warship design. Oh, so we're going to do some cotton clads. Europeans cheer as cotton flows. And more slave workforce is needed. Okay. So Patterson's at destination. So let's, I guess, well, I don't want to move Patterson until Buell's ready to move. Meanwhile, Grant is still moving toward Charleston. Good old Ulysses. Okay. But that is, I will say one thing that's really nice about McClellan, despite the fact that he's not super aggressive and presumably his readiness is going to be an issue, is him being like a tremendous administrator means like, oh, look, they've got a full stock of food and forage. And that was definitely not the case with our Irvin McDowell. These depots are still filling up slowly. I'm curious to see if there's any change in, if we like, as those depots are drawing stuff, if there's any change in artillery ammunition price or small arms ammunition price. Not as far as I can really tell. Certainly in the Confederate camp, there's a little bit of a spike there, but really not a whole lot. Anyway, we were raising some more troops in Buell's army. How are they doing? They're up to 25,000 troops, and most of Buell's army has been recruited. We're waiting on Hatch's brigade, which is up to 17 days away, and then we did raise a cavalry brigade under Gregg. So I did reorganize Buell's Army of the Ohio. It now consists of 4 infantry divisions with 3 brigades each, one of those currently being recruited. We have an artillery reserve division, which consists of 4 batteries, 1 per infantry division. but they're broken out from the infantry so that I have a little bit. My goal is to create like a foot on fall, as Napoleon will call it. Basically, my goal is to create a artillery arm in each of my larger armies, so that when I do want to hit the enemy, I can just group my guns in one place, pound the enemy, and then move the infantry in and issue orders to infantry divisions without, you know, disrupting my artillery actions. And the way the game works, I feel like grouping your artillery in their own independent units is the best way to do that. Okay, so the Army of Ohio there. Patterson's troops are up to 10,000 troops. They're kind of in the same situation, no cavalry for them, but they've got 2 infantry divisions, an artillery division. Grant's troops aren't quite grouped that way, 2 infantry divisions and a cavalry brigade, although he still hasn't, one of his batteries of artillery is a day away and the cavalry's 2 weeks away. So he's invading the Confederacy with no cavalry. Okay. All right. Still just the one Confederate invading army in Missouri. Go get Charleston, Virginia, Grant. I love how like the armies stop the moment that they the sun goes down. That's a nice touch. Although you should be able to march, like, I wonder if you force march if you're able to march at night. I'm assuming we're taking that. Yeah, you can see we're taking Charleston, Virginia. Grant is at destination. Buell is slowly getting his army ready for marching. And then we'll move toward Gailey Bridge. Once... Oh, shit. I wasn't even paying attention. The South Carolina State Militia is attacking, as well as the Army of the Potomac. So about 27,000 Confederates are coming at... What is it? We only have 11,000 men ready for combat in the Army of the Potomac? When did that... How did our force get that low? I'm confused. We have 2 brigades with about 22,000 men that are low on morale. Why does it say 11,965? I'm showing we have 18,000 men. Oh, no, that even that math doesn't work, even if the disabled soldier strength. Huh. I don't understand the totals here. Those don't make sense, but it looks like we've got a major Confederate assault here at Fredericksburg. We're going to have another Battle of Fredericksburg here toward the end of September 1861. The Confederates are going to come at us, 22,000 men in the South Carolina State Militia, and then it looks like the Army of the Potomac is going to bring reinforcements of another 6,000 troops. So I do have one concern, and I don't know if this is valid or not, but it does seem like armies regroup pretty quick and attack you pretty quickly. And like, if the enemy's going to throw armies at you every week and you're going to be fighting a battle every 10 days, that's going to feel more like the Overland campaign. So I'm curious if the game has any like breaks on the AI to be like, hey, you just lost. Don't attack the enemy for another month. Like if they're moving on you, then you can defend. But like, don't aggressively try and always keep spamming forward toward the enemy. I'm curious if the AI does that or not, or if it knows to do that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're gonna jump into fight this battle because I don't trust the AI to fight it by itself, and we'll see if Little Mac is able to snatch another victory. Now we're definitely gonna have to play on the defensive again in this fight, and probably not even aggressively pushing forward like we did last time. We'll probably have to wait and just sit in our defensive positions and try and wear them down. Because the enemy, if this is all correct and they all do engage, it's going to be 28,000 versus 18,000. We'll be outnumbered almost 2-1. So we're going to have to use the defensive side of the map. I'm assuming I'll be on the defensive in this battle, so I'll have some advantage in deploying our troops forward. And maybe along that railroad cut in the Fredericksburg map again. But let's jump in. Okay, so we are deployed on the field of battle. You can see here I have my army kind of laid out in a long single line. I'm going to do what we did before the last battle, and I'm going to advance my troops to this railroad cut, and we're going to take a defensive position behind it Turns out the 11,000 number is the number of infantry that we have. We've got about 5,000 cavalry, 11,000 infantry, and the remainder is artillery. If that's true, the Confederates have an even bigger advantage because they skew infantry heavy. Short sort of view of what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to deploy one infantry, the 1st Infantry Brigade under Erasmus Keyes, which is one of our unstable brigades. I'm going to deploy them to these houses here to the left of where this sort of railroad cut ends and the trench ends, if you will. Going to go ahead and deploy one of my brigades of cavalry under Fitzjohn Porter to the rear to support them. They're going to be detached, however. We're also going to deploy another one of our cavalry brigades here under Charles Stone up on this hill to guard our flank. And then we're going to deploy the 1st Division under Daniel Tyler, the two brigades that aren't deployed to the town. The town brigade is part of this division. We're going to deploy them on the right flank where I think it's less likely that the enemy may attack us here because these two brigades have been pretty badly battered. Sherman, who's done a really good job as a brigade commander, he only has 1,000 muskets on his side. Schenck fought pretty well in the last battle as well, but again, only 1,400 muskets. The 3rd Division will deploy to their left. They're in better shape with about 4,300 men, and then the 2nd Division under David Hunter with about 4,000 men will deploy to their left, hopefully taking up most of this trench line, allowing the enemy to advance across the open against us. The real risk is probably right around here where the enemy will have some cover from these trees, but we'll see. Meanwhile, I'm also going to deploy my artillery sort of on this sort of ledge, this plateau that I think will give us the best vantage point possible. The left flank where the enemy may come on up will probably be under some cover as it was last time, but there just doesn't seem to be a really good artillery platform to put guns overlooking our own troops from an elevation perspective. Maybe slightly over here in these in this fenced area, but really this platform here is where the artillery is going to see the best from. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, we might be outnumbered infantry-wise better than 2-1, so it'll be interesting to see. Meanwhile, Buford apparently is disgraced. I kind of forgot about that, our cavalry division commander, so hopefully that doesn't make my cavalry too ineffective. With that being said, let's go ahead and play, and we'll start issuing those orders here. So 1st Division, let's go ahead and deploy them. That's not quite what I want. Not quite what I want. Almost. I'm trying to get these guys to deploy the entirety in the trench line with just a single click. Doesn't want to do that, so I guess we'll do this. These troops will... It's like the... Oh, okay. Wait. There we go. Okay, so this division here, the 2nd Division, is being ordered forward into these trenches. The 1st Brigade here is going to be ordered into these houses. 3rd Cavalry will be sort of in the rear, just making sure the enemy doesn't go through the town and up and around us. All right, so 3rd Division up to just about the bend in the creek there. I guess, is that they're not both 3rd Divisions. 2nd Division. Okay. 3rd Division. Deploy there. And then I think that brigade over here on the flank is going to detach, but let's just make sure. It should be detached, right? They're not detached yet? Oh, okay. Meanwhile, also the 4th Cavalry, you're going to go up here on these hills, guarding the right flank. The artillery reserve, you're going to deploy on this plateau. I may need to move one of these batteries here, these guys, the howitzers, into this. I'm not sure where to put them exactly, but like maybe here. I don't know. None of these areas really have good fields of fire for artillery other than that one plateau. And then this division has now, I think they've detached this brigade now. Okay, so they've occupied these houses, as you can see from this flag. Okay, yep, they're detached. So the 3rd division's moving up there. 1st division will meet them in the bend there. And that should protect us, I think. I mean, and then we'll have 1 cavalry brigade, the 3rd under Alfred Gibbs. That's in reserve. These guys are detached too, right? No. All right, we'll issue those orders. General George B. McClellan's troops, you can see here they're deploying in a little, almost a semicircular position. Oh, you guys are not where I want you to be. Nope. All right, pull back here, because this railroad cut gives you a little bit of cover, but not much. Meanwhile, I should have ordered everybody to be at long-range fire already. I did that at the start of the battle. Yeah, so it looks like everybody's got the long-range fire order. Artillery's moving up onto these hills. Really could use some long-range guns. I need better equipment. I really need those industrial policies to kick in. 24-pound howitzers are nice and heavy, but I really want some rifled guns. Give me some accurate fire. Cavalry's heading up the woods to the right flank. I'm assuming the enemy is going to come right at us again. And then the 1st division is filing into position here. So we have basically no reserves. We have 1 brigade of cavalry that is our sort of fire brigade in the event that there's a breakthrough. This bend and right flank, I think, are going to be well defended by 2 batteries of artillery, 24-pounders. But the left flank is going to be a little bit more vulnerable. Especially the far left flank with these troops in the buildings. I don't know quite how effective in-building cover is gonna be compared to like trench cover, but it should at least anchor the flank. And then we do have the 3rd cavalry just in the event that the buildings aren't good enough cover to guard them, but they only have mixed cavalry weapons, so they're not going to have the best range or firepower in the event the enemy breaks through. Better defensive positions would be on these hills overlooking, you know, these open plains here, but that would require reorientation with the Confederates coming across the river against us and us taking up defensive positions here. Less so north-south, the way that the map currently lays the Confederate positions out. I wonder if this would actually be a good artillery position here. I just don't, I mean, to me it looks like it would be. Fired this way into these woods. If we zoom out, like, what's the topographicals? It does say we're on a hill here, but I don't know relative height. Also, a little bit weirded out in our current position because we're like a slight rise over the creek, but we're actually below the opposite end of the creek, it looks like. But I'm thinking the extra cover is good enough. I think we're going to go ahead and jump ahead here a little bit and see when the Confederates come at us. Yeah, it's just those 2 objectives. So the Rebs still come on the map from the southern portions of the map. But the reason that matters is we did get a report that the Army of the Potomac for the Confederates arrived. So if they come on like near Courthouse Road, they could take this main roadway here and move directly toward Taylor Hill, which would completely outflank our position. If these troops on the southern end of the map could choose to advance and try and cross the river, I think there's a ford here, and then move toward the objectives over here. So we'll have to see. But with that being said, let's jump ahead. Nothing happens on the first day's fight, and we dig in a little bit. So we're moving forward to the beginning of the second day's fight. I kind of would have liked to use a little bit of ammo on the first day's fight, or be able to like oversupply your units with more than 60 rounds, because 60 rounds isn't enough for a whole day's engagement. The question is, since we discovered the objectives are back here, do we keep our advanced position Or do we pull back on the actual objective points? Like, these don't seem like defensible objectives. So I'm going to keep my troops where they are. All right, we have spotted the enemy. They appear to be coming at us at the same spot as last time. There is one battery of artillery here, the South Carolina Artillery. 16 guns, 240 men that we have spotted coming across the open. But it's going to take a little while for more of their troops to come up and deploy, so I'm going to jump forward ahead till when we actually start fighting. I'm not going to move any of my troops, so you're not going to miss anything. More enemy infantry coming up. Now, last time they sort of grouped up in this wooded area before eventually coming at us. These two batteries of artillery are both firing at the enemy. These guys are not. I don't think they have line of sight. So it doesn't look like they can see the enemy from there. Let's move this gun battery back here behind the earth parapet of the horses. I think there's a little bit of elevation here they may be able to see toward the left flank here. Let's see how much ammo we're going to burn through. 46, 61, 16. I wish I knew what the breakout of this ammunition was. Like, I wish it said if I hovered over it, solid shot or case shot or whatever. I'm guessing the ammo the furthest to the left is like canister, or not canister, like shell or case, I would guess. Because we see explosions, so that, in theory, if the graphics mimic the hell shooting. I hear muskets. Oh, the enemy's moving into town here. Wingo's Brigade, 3,700 men. So we've got Key's Brigade, which is in the houses that have opened up on them. Wingo's suffering pretty heavy casualties already over 160. The enemy's bringing another brigade in there, Cheatham's Brigade. So they may push hard through the town. Are they going to try and cross the ford? It doesn't look like it. The problem with this 3rd Cavalry here is you can see their range is extremely limited. Do we have another reserve brigade of cavalry? We don't. Alright, more enemy infantry coming up. We still don't have any indication of where the Army of the Potomac is, though, right? These are all South Carolina State Militia troops. I'm going to order Stone to come back here and form a reserve in the town. Again, the Potomac Army could be flanking us. They could have come on the map over here on the right and could be moving on the objectives. Wingo's still moving forward here. He's lost over 500 men. He has not apparently stopped open fire. Okay, there they are. They're forming up to open fire. So they have about 3,200 muskets that are going to be against about 1,000 of our own. However, they've already lost 500 men. I haven't seen a volley yet, though. These guns are now shooting. Not quite sure who at who, but we can see their smoke. Their angle seems to be at Wingo's Brigade. Wingo has detached some skirmishers out ahead of us, and they begun firing on my troops in the buildings. Okay, the skirmishers are taking losses, but let's take advantage and flank these guys with Fitzjohn Porter's 3rd Cav. They are moving up a lot of troops here. It looks like they're going to try and avoid us entirely and cross the river here and move on. I'm guessing they're going to move on the objectives then. So they're not even going to attack the troops to their front. They're going to try and cross the river and just go straight for the objectives then. As far as I can tell, Cheatham's Brigade is crossing. Alright, so Wingo's Brigade has lost over 620 men. Let's move the dismounted cavalry forward here before they lose too badly. Close the range. Get 1,600 more muskets into action here. Maybe we can drive Wingo into the river. 700 casualties for him. Alright, actually go ahead and pull back. Retreat, boys. Hopefully in good order. Lose about 100 men. They'll regain their confidence once they're in their earthworks, right? It'd be great if the horses got behind them in line. There they go. Right, back in their parapets. Enemy does have skirmishers forward now. So the cavalry did drive off the enemy's skirmishers at least. You can see they're forming up here. Well, they haven't, I guess they stopped their crossing. Bragg's brigade is up. Still no sign of the Potomac army. Bledsoe's battalion's coming up. This all appears to be South Carolina state militia troops. We did get an intel report that the Army of the Potomac was spotted, the Confederate Army of the Potomac, so they gotta be here somewhere. South Carolina state militia. Keyes has lost 12 men so far. Cheatham's detachment is routing. Ghost Brigade's lost 800 men almost. 3rd Cavalry's losing a bunch of men here in these trenches. Meanwhile, Porter's rifled muskets are firing. Let's do this. Let's move Burnside's troops to the right. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get Burnside's over here. We're gonna swap Burnside's into these parapets, and we're gonna move Fitzjohn Porter's men out. So let's go ahead and mount your cavalry up, and then move over here. Quickly, boys, you're under fire. Get out of there. I don't want to take a bunch of casualties just to take them, so we'll swap the 2nd Brigade over. Still part of Hunter's division. Get in the damn trenches. On the double, boys. I know you're under fire, but get into the trenches. No, just sit there and take flank fire. Come on, boys. Burnsides, don't be dumb. Moving slowly, I assume, because they're moving through friendly lines. Taking a few casualties. Nothing too bad yet. 30 casualties. Meanwhile, on the left, Keyes is only taken 12 casualties. These buildings seem to be giving him really nice cover, although he's not really pushing the skirmishers back too hard. Not sure where the rest of Cheatham... Oh, there's Cheatham. So I guess we must have routed Wingham's or whatever that 1st Brigade was that we saw. Alright, so Burnside's into the trenches without too much damage, I think. What's his reputation right now? He's not disreputable, right? Legendary. He's famous. Alright, so we've got those... The problem for Keyes' brigade is going to be ammunition. So I guess we're going to go ahead and take Shank and shift him over to the left into these houses. Don't really want you to move through the line of fire like that. Keyes is whipped. Oh, fucking A. He just died all of a sudden? I guess they set the house on fire? Well, that's great. So Keyes' brigade's gone. They all just died. The enemies whipped us properly, and I'm running low on men. I don't necessarily agree with that. We do have the 4th Cavalry here, which can move forward here. Two more brigades showed up. I wonder if this is Robert E. Lee. Probably not, right? South Carolina State Militia. I'm guessing that's not R.E. Lee. Well, Keyes... I mean, he routed more than one enemy brigade, I guess, so he did his job there. It's only 11 o'clock and our ammunition situation's not looking great. Alright, let's move what's left of the 1st Division here. Where's your other brigade? Oh, there. Alright. So let's move Sherman also to the left. So we're basically taking our right flank division, Tyler's division, and shifting it left. And Tyler's division has really borne the brunt of a lot of the battles that we've engaged the Army of the Potomac in. Yeah, these guys just have muskets, so they're sitting there taking fire. Not losing too badly. Meanwhile, it looks like Griffith's brigade is advanced. We've got a couple of brigades here near the bend in our line that are engaging them. I wish I knew, like, where the artillery should be so they can shoot at these bastards. Meanwhile, my own artillery on the flank is firing. Schenck is in contact. Okay, Schenck just kind of, like, is shooting over the top of the troops' heads, so that interrupted my attempt to move to support the flank, but $50 rounds, 40 rounds, not even noon yet. There's got to be a better resupply mechanic. Okay. They're not shooting at anyone, huh? Like, how do you get them to shoot? Are there just troops in the way? Is that why? Move over here to the railroad cut. Will they have a line of sight? Alright, the enemy's moving through the town. Let's move the 4th Cavalry forward to drive off these skirmishers. Hit them in the flank. I'm assuming we can charge skirmishers and drive them back. There we go. Routed those skirmishers. Just got killed. The 4th Brigade's commander, Cook, has fallen. Where are they? Why is everybody fighting here? God damn it. I think that's my first general officer that I've lost killed, by the way. Oh, Wingo's here, so Wingo's still around. All these brigades are getting, like, sucked in. This damn fight here. Did I pull that? We've got the one cavalry. We still haven't seen the Army of the Potomac. Oh, they did. They flanked us. So the Army of the Potomac moved in here and took this one objective. So that other Confederate army's over there. Now, I don't know that I really care if I can whip the enemy in terms of casualties where I'm in my current position enough. It may not matter what the enemy does objective-wise. Can you just finish off Wingo's brigade and rout him so we can drive the first enemy brigade that we've fought back? You're losing pretty heavily. Oh, it's at 1,000 casualties. Now it's back to under 1,000? Now it's back to over 1,000. Gonna retreat if they get over 200 losses. Now the real problem is the enemy could come up in my rear now that they've taken this objective. They could advance north and hit us from both sides. Come on. Sometimes I feel like the mouse scroll gets kind of stuck. Alright, so we've lost over 200 casualties. Wingo's not routed yet, so go ahead and withdraw. The nice thing is you're on horses, so you can move real damn fast. You have a whole bunch of negative situations, but you're able to extract yourself pretty damn fast. Maybe extract yourself a little bit further. Oh shit. Fitzporter lost 500 men and is broken. I guess that's because you have crap ass weapons and you can't, God damn it. Buford's demoralized again, so his reputation's probably not going to improve. That's what happens when you have mixed cavalry weapons that can't shoot more than like 200 yards. Meanwhile, Sherman's brigade's lost over 350 men. My center's about to crack. Cook is getting chewed up. We're gonna bring Dixon Miles over here and his 1,600 men to reinforce this position. Shank's 3rd Cavalry. Pretty good shape. Sherman is losing men. Sherman's withdrawing. Broken. I really hope he doesn't, like, get discredited, because he's fought tremendously so far in his career. And get in the damn entrenchments there. And they just drove the 4th Brigade back. Another brigade routed, Cook's brigade. Its defensive position is cracking under weight of enemy numbers. Who's dead now? Brigadier General Tyler was killed. The enemy's use of skirmishers, I think, is sound, but they're also coming up and just hitting us with a lot of men. Shank, get in the damn trenches. Alright, so I'm hoping these trenches are giving us 100 casualties to 300. I don't know. Maybe we're not getting as good a defensive bonus as I would hope. But again, almost every one of their brigades is 2 to 3 times my own size, so that is part of the problem, I think. Sherman's running. Order's low on ammo. Alright, Stone's brigade broke. There's no way you're shooting at anything there. You don't have the range. Burnside's hanging in there. Clayton's brigade. So it seems like weight of numbers is countering our defensive position. That seems to be the case at the moment. Is that while yes, we've got good defensive positions, the enemy's intelligent use of skirmishers, which yours truly is not using, and the enemy's intelligent use of its manpower is giving it advantages when it comes to casualties. It is 1300 hours, by the way. The day is bleeding away. I should probably withdraw. This artillery is still not doing anything. Move the guns forward. Alright, Sanders' brigade has lost almost 1,000 men, mostly to Porter's men by the looks of it. About 3 to 1 casualties inflicted there. Buckner's brigade's at about 400 losses. So the enemy's not getting away without losses. Wingo's brigade's lost over 1,000 men. They're trying to rally. Alright, go over here. Let's do this. I want you to mount and get into the town. Then hit the enemy on the flank. At least if Burnsides is going to be shooting them from this way, then maybe we can hit them in the flank. Because right now you're just taking casualties to no real purpose. Rags brigade. Okay, we broke Sanders' brigade. They lost about 1,000 men. They're running. Enemy has a lot of artillery also. That could be playing a factor here. Well, there goes another brigade. And that's a defeat. I just didn't have enough troops. Baker's losing men. He's routed. I didn't have enough troops to absorb the morale hits there. So we were going to be driven back from Fredericksburg, unfortunately. I think we inflicted some pretty heavy losses on the enemy, but not enough. I need to do a better job of withdrawing troops shy of them breaking. You can see at the end of the day, the enemy lost 5,600 infantry. We lost 4,300, but we also lost 1,500 cavalry. Those cavalry losses really hurt. They really did very little for us, and they lost a lot of manpower. I need to use cavalry differently. But the enemy lost about 5,600 of its 34,000 infantry. We only had 11,000 infantry. We were outnumbered 3 to 1 in terms of infantry, almost 2 to 1 in terms of raw number. But given the infantry was the only effective force I had. Anyway, so McClellan was defeated at the second battle of Fredericksburg. A minor federal defeat. The enemy still lost a considerable number of men. Can't imagine their morale is great despite the victory with all those casualties. They've lost more than 12,000 infantry in the last 11 days. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed yet another video of Grand Tactician, the Civil War, an upcoming Civil War grand strategy and tactical war game. We lost another defeat. This one mostly due to manpower issues. I really need to build the Union up and get more troops. I'm really just sort of waiting for that military policy phase 2 so I can have the 2-year recruits. But we should be really close to that. I may need to bring back those 7,000 troops up in New York that we raised for coastal operations to make sure that Washington doesn't fall. But that'll all be for another video. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.